But, Mr Deputy Speaker, I do have to say this, this is another anniversary today. It's an anniversary pretty much almost to the day that Britain's Jewish community came together in the square across the street to protest against racism in the Labour Party. And I'm afraid we do have to address ourselves to this, because I think that we lose our legitimacy to complain about other people's racism if we're not prepared to deal with the problems we find in our own party. And I just want to say this, I want to tell the House about Susan Pollock. Born in 1930 in Hungary, imprisoned as a teenager in Auschwitz, spends her time now travelling the country, telling young people about the evils of racism and prejudice. I first met her when she came to Dudley to talk at our annual Holocaust commemoration. The second time I met her, an Auschwitz survivor in her late 80s, was in that demonstration across the road, the first ever political demonstration she'd been on in her life, and it was against, well, it was, I've left the Labour Party, but, I spent, 35 years in it. I found it a deeply shocking and shameful thing. And I think it's terrible that a culture of extremism and anti-Semitism has resulted in the Labour Party being investigated by the Equality and Human Rights Commission. I think that's a really, really shocking thing. And this weekend, as we've heard in the Sunday Times, a failure to take proper disciplinary action against hundreds of members accused of anti-Semitism. People who said things like Heil Hitler, F the Jews are the problem. They've not been expelled. Absolutely shocking. Even though complaints about this were received a year ago, a councillor in Lancashire led back into the party after fuming about Jewish media attacks and the Rothschild family. Last August, I complained about, if I complained about everybody who said this sort of stuff to me, you'd have no time to do anything else. But I did complain about one member last year because he also threatened violence at my office, which is in a building which also contains a women's aid centre. Now, this guy, he questioned the numbers killed in the Holocaust. He said 6 million was a magic number. He told the Jewish community to, quote, put up or shut up. He talked about Zionist scum, and he used really obscene remarks that I wouldn't repeat, Mr Deputy Speaker. I complained about him last August, despite repeated emails and requests. Eventually, unbelievably, he was finally suspended in February, but still a member, as far as I'm aware. I really hope that the party's listening and they will deal with that. The chair of the Jewish Leadership Council, Jonathan Goldstein, I think he was completely right this weekend to condemn what he called the corruption within Labour. He said that those who've covered it up should be relieved of their duties. He said last July, I called the Labour Party institutionally racist against Jews. Today's revelations make clear for all to see just how accurate that statement was. Even the Deputy Leader, Mr Deputy Speaker, sorry, the Honourable Member for West Bromwich East, well, I'm sure actually the Deputy Speaker is just as appalled as I am by all of this, but the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, he said yesterday, this makes for deeply shocking and depressing reading. Labour members and the Jewish community will not understand how, many years on from the first concerns about anti-Semitism being raised, we have not got to grips with it. Mr Deputy Speaker, it's profoundly shocking to me that a political party I joined as a teenager to fight racism has become embroiled in a scandal like this. It's got to be dealt with much, much more seriously. They've got to respond properly to the reasonable requests made by the Jewish community more than a year ago. They've got to boot out the racists for good. As Jonathan Goldstein said this weekend, Mr Deputy Speaker, enough is enough.